Hi sweeties, how are you doing? Welcome to Cimnanya or Naya. If this is your first time of coming across this channel, sweetheart, kindly smash that subscribe button and turn your notification so you are notified each time I upload, and please give this video a thumb up. I appreciate you all so much, and I am saying a very big shout out to every one of you for the love, the support you all showing me here with. I am grateful, and you all are super sweet. So before we get into this video, I'm going to say that the link to the video is in the comment section. Click on it so you can watch the full video, because it's a documentary that they are documenting on this. And for the fact that this woman is moving around freely is very upsetting and turning my stomach. This woman actually traveled from US to Uganda to do charity work, and all of a sudden she became a doctor. She doesn't have any medical experiences, mind you, about that. Actually, she started with malnutrition, feeding the kids and all that. Before we know what was going on, she became a doctor without nothing, and started training kids. And how many kids died? Almost 100 and something kids died because she wanted to be a white savior. And now they are making this look like she is the victim. They are making it look like she is the one. They are, instead of centering all this on the parents or the two women who actually sue her to court and all that. And now I don't know why Ugandan government decided that they are going to settle out of court. Why is she moving around freely? Why is she not facing the law? How come somebody without medical experiences all of a sudden started practicing without anything? And now the evangelists, you see all these missionary workers, evangelical mission of something that sent some people to Africa. To avoid them. If you are a black person, if you are an African person, if you see all those people that leave their country because they think Africa is where they can save, which souls are they saving? They are actually coming to do more harm. Man, this is very wild. Do not go around looking for a video to watch about this. If you see any video, any documentary about this, give them 1 star and move on. This is just very horrific. It's very horrifying. I am going to go.
Now, this piece of shit is Renee Bach. And Renee Bach decided to raise money through donations and go to Uganda and open up a medical center. Here's the thing. Renee Bach was 19 when she had this decision, and by the time she got to Uganda, she was just 20. She still had no medical training, but yet and still she passed herself off and was able to run a clinic from 2010 to 2015 where 105 children died. Fueled by money raised from her evangelical church back in Bedford, Virginia, Renee Bach set up shop in one of the poorest areas of Jinja, Uganda. And there, for 5 years, she treated children with no medical degree. Not only did she not have a medical degree, but there was no doctor at the center that she administered. In 2019, Ray Bach was sued by the Ugandan government on behalf of the mothers of the 105 children recorded to have died while in her care. Now, they settled out of court in 2020 at $9,500 per child, which came to a total of $997,500, just a little under $1 million. But this travesty did not stop there, because HBO is doing the following.
The most wild accusations that were made about me is that...
Ciao, let's get into it. Now, if you've been on Twitter for the past week, you've been seeing this clip circulating, and you've probably been seeing a lot of people outraged that this documentary is even happening. The woman in that video is named Renee Bach, and she is accused to have been responsible for the deaths of up to 800 Ugandan babies. I have a lot of feelings about this, but let me just give you a quick rundown of her story, and then we'll get into my opinions in a second. Also, hi, my name is Madison. I'm the creator behind the M0st channel, and if you're interested in BIPOC true crime stories, hit the link in the bio to subscribe and check me out. Okay, let's get into it. Essentially, Rachel had gone to Uganda during one of her evangelical mission trips, and she came back and she decided that she wanted to go back in order to do more and help out the community there. So she started this charity called Serving His Children in Uganda, the place that she had specifically visited, and started by feeding the kids bi-weekly. So they'd cook a meal and feed a lot of the children, and through that process started to gain a lot more popularity as more and more people depended on them. She was approached by somebody who asked if she would be willing to help take care of some malnourished children, severely malnourished children in the area, and she also decided to take that on. So Serving His Children was no longer just handing out free meals to the local kids. It also was taking in and rehabilitating and being responsible medically for children who are severely malnourished in the area. She would also allow their families to stay while their, kids were getting fed and getting back healthy. That's all well and good, but the issue was that she was operating without a medical license, and in some quotes by some people that were there, not washing her hands and using her gut feelings about administrating medical care. She was doing blood transfusions, she was putting in IVs, she was doing a bunch of stuff that you need to be specifically trained to do. Not to mention, she did not get a medical license for this charity. So she shouldn't even have been practicing any of this stuff in the first place. Now, those that were there, saw what they saw. One man reportedly said he was on average driving 7 to 10 children's bodies to their homes a week. She was sued by two of the mothers, or rather the organization was sued by two of the mothers whose kids passed away. They settled out of court, and basically the whole thing dissolved. Okay, opinion number one after that very quick rundown. I always feel really gross when it comes to these evangelical mission projects in countries that are going through a volatile time. I don't like to see the content on it. I don't like to see people talking about it, because there is this very intense smell of colonialism there. And a lot of those corporations and organizations are rife with abuse towards the local people because they know those people don't have enough capital to go against their organization. So I always feel really gross and really weird with all of that kind of stuff in the first place. Secondly, and I think why most people are really upset, is the fact that HBO is doing a 3-part series on this woman, centering this woman. And I think this is what, I don't know why it's so hard to understand, but what is so frustrating being a person of color in this country, specifically when it comes to true crime content. Instead of platforming the victims of this situation, you are choosing to platform the woman that was a perpetrator of this violence. And sure, yes, of course, there's probably going to be people that were there. There's probably going to be people saying their opinion. But the entire thing is centering this woman and her experience and giving her the massive platform of a Max docuseries to speak her side. This is an issue I had with the Jeffrey Dahmer thing. This is an issue that I keep having with these types of things being hashed and rehashed in this way. True crime is but a microcosm of the world around it. It is just a small example of what is influencing it societally. Because of that, there are things like missing white woman syndrome, or just the overall preference of reporting on a white person instead of a person of color. There are ways to talk about these stories without only centering and giving the loudest microphone to the white person in the room. On top of that, you can be a person accused of essentially murdering 800 babies, Ugandan children, and you can get a 3-part miniseries to explain your side. Just like the aftermath of Dahmer, we saw how people were like lusting after him and just like so sympathetic towards him, when in reality he specifically targeted black gay victims because of their marginalized nature in society. Missing white women syndrome and the infiltration of white supremacy in the true crime space isn't just the resources that are used, isn't just the spotlight that's put on that case or that victim. It's also the spotlight that continuously gets put on that case for years to come. There are so many stories that need to be told, so many situations that are purposely hidden by the way we tell history, so many true crime cases that have never seen the light of day, that will never be a household name, and that is because of the color of their skin. But instead of digging up a true crime story or telling a true crime story centering the victims, centering the people of color, centering the marginalized party in the situation, you continue to do this thing where you platform the predator. And that is an active choice. That is an active choice, to choose to make a series around somebody accused of unaliving 800 African kids, instead of going there and talking to the people directly and centering their story. You saw that trailer. She's sitting down like she's about to do a YouTube apology video. Like they're giving her such a massive platform to do that, instead of platforming maybe the two women who sued the charity, going there and talking to the people there and centering their story. But these things and these decisions have real material consequences. You know what I'm saying? Because that is why people target poor kids, black kids, kids of color, gay kids, trans kids, to do and to enact violence against them, because they know that it's less likely that they'd be caught, because it's less likely that the police will care, that it's less likely that it would become a national news story because of their marginalized nature in society. And telling the story in the same tired way is contributing to that. Sorry for the long video, but if you are interested in dark history, widening the definition of what a true crime story is, if you are interested in a place or a person who centers BIPOC stories wholeheartedly and talks about the things that people are not talking about, hit the link in the bio and subscribe.
Actually, some reports say that over 105 children died. Some even say 129. NPR reported the death rate in 2011 is 20% and 10% in 2013. And then 2010 to 2015, 105 children died out of the total 940 treated. But as you can see up here, she's denying this and saying that over 3,500 people, that there were only 119 deaths between 2010 and 2018. She actually kept a blog, and they have a lot of the writings from this, that where she took temperatures, started IVs. She's claiming these testing HB. It's not specified as who she's meaning by we in a lot of these. She started a good cause. She went out there to go feed children. She was giving hot meals like twice a day to 1,000 kids, just trying to keep kids fed, until families started coming up to her and I guess saying, hey, can you take her in? Can you take this child in and get them back on their feet? She's saying that it was something that they had to do because there was no other choice for a lot of these children. But the thing is that she was known as the white doctor, but she has no medical experience whatsoever. But as you can see here, a Uganda pediatrician that specializes in malnourishment says that Bach's explanation is preposterous because by 2010, Bach says in the region that she is in, there could have been a referral that had been to a hospital that was well-established malnourishment unit to care for complicated cases of severe and acute malnourishment, because some of these kids showed signs of HIV and AIDS, and she was still keeping them there and treating. Her attorney says that it's nonsensical allegations and maintains that the client is innocent. Treatment on gut feelings, white doctor. Now, in this area, there are quite a lot of these things set up. She's doing her thing there, but there were a lot of charities set up that were helping throughout this whole entire region. And she was backed by the church and through money that was raised through church circles back home here. Tons. And soon American teens raised in mostly evangelical churches were streaming to volunteer at all of these places. Yeah, in 2015, it got shut down, but a few years later, Uganda's government authorized Bach to reopen a center, this time in direct partnership with the government for health centers in a different district at the time, serving his children in the same name, but Bach would no longer be involved in medical care. And I'm assuming this is because she does have the backing of money from here, from churches and from, like, you know, just the group of people that are here to be able to fund this kind of thing. So, of course, they're going to use that. I mean, but within this documentary, I only see her talking and her there. Seems like new footage of her being there and still going. But I'm wondering if the people that they're talking about here, from the documents that were obtained, the statements from 2 mothers whose children died, among allegations from like employees and volunteers against Bach performing medical procedures such as a blood transfusion, inserting catheters, disregarding sanitary protocols. She used to walk around with a stethoscope on, is what they're saying. So that's how she was probably known as the white doctor, which is really confusing because she does not have a medical degree whatsoever. This does come out on September 26th on HBO Max. I am going to watch it. I am trying to find some more information on her and exactly understand what's going on here. There does seem to be a lot of doubling down because she does end up saying within a quote that how she was writing in her blogs was not exactly what was going on, is that she just wanted to feel pretty much like important that she was doing those things, even though a medical professional was doing them and she was writing them as she was doing them. But there are people stating that she was doing them. For the love of the children and the love of the families and just love of humanity, just do the right thing pretty much and don't fuck around and find out.
I just want to apologize in advance because this is going to be an angry, chaotic video. Like everybody else, I have just seen this trailer by HBO, and because I don't want you people to go looking for this thing, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to know about this case. Now, it's not bad enough that we have hundreds of African children who have died at her hands, but now we must also suffer through rewritten accounts of history by people who have obvious white savior complexes. The year is 2010 when a young white American woman called Renee Bach decides that she has heard the voice of God, and the voice of God has told her that she needs to go all the way to Uganda and set up a medical treatment center where she will cater for malnourished Ugandan children. She does this. She goes to Uganda, to the city of Jinja specifically, and decides to set up a medical center where she was feeding young children who would come in. She would operate on young babies who needed medical attention, and essentially would set up herself as part of the American volunteer community that was taking root in Jinja at the time. She would operate on very young children. Parents would come in holding their babies, asking her to help. And in that community, they referred to her as the white doctor. The gag here is Renee actually wasn't a doctor. In fact, she wasn't qualified to do anything. Babes was a 19-year-old high school graduate, and people were donating money to her because they liked the idea of her going to help the poor, helpless children of Africa. Of course, as you would expect, children started dying under her care. Hundreds of children at that fact. And what did she do? Absolutely nothing. She did not care. She continued to operate on them, and there's one account where had a very negative reaction to the operation that Renee had performed on this young baby. And do you know what they did? She started Googling. She started Googling the reactions of this child. And she was saying that, oh, when they start wheezing and swelling, this is what it means. And now HBO have decided to make a documentary about this entire situation by sanitizing Renee and making her out to seem like an endearing victim of this entire scenario. You come into our countries, you enter our homes, you kill our children, and now you want to profit off of our dead bodies. And the worst part about it is the way HBO have phrased this documentary, trying to make it seem like, oh, this is a socio-political pop culture debate. Who was right, who was wrong? Why is it always that whenever the victims are Black or African or indigenous peoples, all of a sudden there's room for debate? I'm sorry, but you don't get to do that. You don't get to debate our livelihoods and our bodies. This is an appeal to everybody who comes across this video. Please, please do not watch the HBO documentary. Give it 1 star and keep it moving. Instead, you should check out these stories published by Ugandan journalists. They'll give you a much more accurate representation of exactly what happened. We all need to remember that Renee Bach is a child serial killer who does not need to be profiting off of her crimes. She needs to be in jail. These are the people that you should be listening to instead.
What's up, y'all? I'm back and I did my research so you don't have to. Picture here is Virginia native Renee Bach. Renee claims to be on a mission from God to save the children in Africa. But ultimately, she ended up unaliving over 105 children. And if you're wondering, no, she didn't serve any jail time for this. she actually moved back to Bedford County, Virginia. Let's go ahead and get into this timeline of events. So as I hinted earlier, Renee comes from a Christian background. In 2007, Renee worked as a missionary at an orphanage in Africa. She was there for a total of 9 months. At the age of 19, she returned back home, and she decided that she wanted to start her own charity in Jinja. And she was able to do so. In her case, she was lucky enough to receive funds that were raised through her church circles back in Virginia. With the money raised, she rented a large house in one of the poorest districts in Jinja. From 2010 to 2015, Renee ran an organization called Serving His Children. And at this nutrition unit, she took in 940 malnourished children. She frequently blogged about her stories, painting herself to be a hero, but ultimately, she suffered from a white savior complex. As you can see, Renee was medically treating these children and providing all the care that she could. But Renee wasn't a doctor. She had no medical training at all. She was just a homeschooled 20-year-old with a white savior complex. So severe that she went to go play doctor and knowingly put each child she came across life at risk. The community of Jinja, Uganda referred to her as the white doctor. And for a very long time, she kept up with that act. But the act stopped when it came to diagnosing patients. Remember, Renee had no medical training, so she relied on God, gut feelings, and the Bible. One woman brought her 3-year-old son to Renee due to his severe malnourishment. 3 days later, her son was unalive. Renee provided no explanation, gave her $13.50 and her son's body to take home. And that's just one story of 105. She was sued by the Ugandan civil court, settled, and now lives comfortably back in Bedford County, Virginia. And when I say comfortably, I mean comfortably. Back in 2020, she got engaged. She left this community of Uganda to suffer. She experimented with their children knowingly, came back to the United States, went to Virginia, took no accountability for her actions, and now there's even a documentary being released on September 29th that Renee is starring in, defending her actions and chastising the people who feels that she did any wrong.
Make sure you guys go on over to T. Nathan's page to hear what he has to say. Y'all know he puts his special sauce on all of the news reports that he reports on. But I'm looking at an article from NPR, and it states that 105 children died in her charity's care. And her and the charity has reached an agreement to pay $9,500 to each of the mothers with no admission of liability. It's also being reported that she did apologize to the families. She did say she was sorry, and she said she would not come back to Uganda. She wouldn't be involved in medical practice in the country anymore. When you're done watching what T. Nathan had to say, make sure you check out this article over on NPR. Just Google Renee Bach and it'll come up. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did she try to not only present herself as a white savior in the little trailer that we just watched, but she's also trying to present herself as a victim in that trailer? No, ma'am. If you had no medical training, no physicians on staff, if you did not know what you were doing, and as a result, 105 children died, you are no savior and you are no victim. You are a murderer. Period.
Excuse me, I am so emotional. Watching this, and it's really very sad that some parents really have to go through this, watching your child die out of ignorance or out of wanting to be a white savior and all that. And you can imagine how many kids that died. And the whole documentary is making it look like black people are the ones that need to apologize to her, not the other way around. And this documentary is now making, I don't know, but the whole thing is just mad, you know? How do people kill people and they are still working out freely? They are moving around freely. They are not even in jail. 100 and something. I mean, this person should never see the light of the day anymore. Again. Never again. But to my greatest surprise, she is even engaged. She's out there moving around. And they decided to settle out of court. And which is like roughly $10,000 for each mother. Which is nothing. How do people, I don't know, but these people are really mad. They are moving mad. I ain't gonna lie to you. You do not have medical experience, not even for a minute. And all of a sudden you started doing blood transfusion, started doing operation on kids, and you said, God, which God sent you? Which God exactly that sent you? What in the hell am I even listening to? Okay, I'm going to put a link in the comment section to take you to see the documentary. Now, the documentary is now centering on her being the victim instead of centering on the women, the black women who actually sued her. Instead of them trying to, know the parents' experiences, what they passed through when their kids. Now it's now this woman, and they are getting ready to probably release this documentary on us. On who? And who is going to watch it? And if you ever come across that, if there is anything like 0 star, give them 0 star and move on. I mean, I am going to sit down and watch this kind of documentary where people that look like me lost their kids. And you all think it's okay? She's back in Virginia and nothing happened. She's living her life. She's updating on YouTube and the rest of it. No, when it got to do with black kids, nothing ever happened. Like black people. Woo, I don't want to talk so much. See you all in my next video. Bye for now.